I have known Harriet for so long that I cannot tell you where I first met her.
Little by little, I started really recognizing her, how wonderful she was and how astute she was and how bushy-tailed she was and how she made everything just come up to standard, and then how fabulously moving her music was.
My first exposure to Harriet was through her book. I was actually gifted the book. I had won a songwriting competition, and among the gifts I was given was a book written by Harriet called Becoming Remarkable. And I have to say, in all honesty, I'm not one to normally read manuals on songwriting. And I thought, you know, I'll give it a try. I opened the first page and I was hooked. I was hooked by her prose, I was hooked by her honesty, and the simple eloquence with which she wrote. It actually inspired me and made me excited again about the task of songwriting.
Harriet was probably one of the most celebrated people at the time I moved out to Los Angeles. And she was like having all this success. She had this great record called Hollywood Town, and they were playing this record all over KNX FM. And she had this huge success with Ain't No Way to Treat a Lady. Now, I was working at this publishing company that published her material.
I'd known about her work because when Ain't No Way to Treat a Lady, the first time I heard it on the radio, I was walking down the street and it just stopped me dead in my tracks, and I thought, wow, that's the kind of melody I want to write.
She came into the room and the Southern charm just overtook me, and I was just totally mesmerized by the fact that this person who was having all the success could be so warm and charming.
So I picked up the LA Weekly, and the listing for the next night said LA Women in Music Soiree, hosted by Harriet Schock. And I thought, oh, that's, that's a sign. So I went there, I met Harriet, and I got to hear her sing live in person. It was really great. And I talked to a couple of her students who were singing with her, and they said, you've got to do this. So I started studying with Harriet and eventually started working with her, and it's been wonderful.
I met Harriet through the Songwriters Guild. I had contacted them to become a member and saw in their brochures that they had songwriting classes, and her name struck me and I decided to take classes from her. I feel like I had been meandering through songwriting before that, just writing myself into corners, abandoning songs, feeling my way through it just based on a groove or a melody idea, but there was never a cohesive process of how to get a song out of me. So being in her class just, I mean, it clarified everything to have a methodology, and she's so good at keeping you very focused and very clear about the direction that you're going with the song, so that everything in the song has to do with that one concept.
I think the essence of what Harriet is about is communication, and communicating from your deepest essence, which, you know, it's coming from a place of truth, which in itself is, in any form of art, is the most powerful.
One of the things I was thinking about when I knew I was going to talk about her was, which Harriet Schock are we talking about? I mean, I know her as a wonderful, respected performer, a fine musician, a writer of books, and a wonderful mentor to numberless writers. I know her as a very energetic and creative member of committees and boards. She's involved with the ASCAP Foundation, I think, and I know she's on the board of the Society of Composers and Lyricists and other things. And then I know her work as a songwriter.
Like my first time on a Ferris wheel, the view from up here is so clear and real. The sense of falling fast is all that I can feel, and yet I want to keep on flying. Now I see how lonely I have been. All that I needed was a lover who's afraid. I see your eyes never miss a chance to have too much fun. In Tara, Aralu, lots of excitement for everyone. You go to bed just to wake up early to get in trouble or on the brink. The line between wild and crazy gets blurry. The adventures of Piggly Wings.
There'll be hyacinth and chrysanthemums, a petunia, even a rose. We'll watch it as it grows.
Harriet gets up on stage and she makes the audience feel just as comfortable as you are when you're in the room with her. And she brings that warmth and that excitement to the stage, and she brings that personality that is the same as she is, you know, when she's not performing.
And even now as I lose my pride, this heart's still trying to take your side. And so I turn off the light to drive the memories away. And I say, okay, you win, I give up, you're right, I'm gone. You stand your ground so well, I must be moving on.
I think that Harriet is not only the songwriter's best friend, but also the audience's best friend.
Harriet's songs are extremely personal, more so than many of the other writers that I could think of. Her songs say a great deal about her, about the way she feels, about relationships. That's one of the attractions that they have for me.
Well, the one thing that's really, really wonderful about Harriet's songs is how clear they are. And I've really taken a lesson from that, because I have plenty of songs that I wrote in the 70s that nobody knows what I'm talking about. Anybody who writes songs has those. I may like them, but I don't. The ones I do on stage are the ones where I can communicate, and Harriet's songs all communicate.
Harriet brings out that the potential that a writer has to be a great songwriter.
It's a language that people don't really natively know how to speak. And she teaches people how to speak the language of songwriting.
You know, it's like if you've been making dinner like steak a certain way, or a beef stew a certain way for 20 years, and then suddenly you find that there's a recipe, you know, that you could actually follow a recipe.